The stars looked different from the observation deck of the U.S. Defiant. Lieutenant John Mercer stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the unfamiliar patterns of light. Earth was now just a distant blue dot, barely visible among thousands of others. The Defiant, humanity's first true interstellar vessel, had been traveling for 3 months now, exploring what lay beyond the solar system. John sipped his coffee and checked his watch. His shift would begin in 20 minutes. As the ship's security officer, he took his job seriously, even though they had yet to encounter anything more dangerous than a meteor shower. The calm silence of the observation deck was broken by the sudden wail of alarms. John's coffee cup fell to the floor as he sprinted toward the bridge. "Status report," demanded Captain Ellis as John entered. "Unknown vessel approaching at high speed, sir," replied the sensor officer, her fingers flying across the control panel. "It's massive. At least 3 times our size." John took his station and brought up the security protocols. The crew had trained for this, but training and reality were very different things. "It's slowing down," said the sensor officer. "Now matching our speed." The communications officer spoke next. "Sir, they're hailing us, I think." The main screen flickered to life, and the bridge fell silent. The being on the screen was clearly not human. It had pale blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and no visible nose. When it spoke, its mouth moved in odd ways, but the words came through in perfect English. "Greetings, travelers. I am Ambassador Zex Troll of the Valkyrie Dominion. We have been observing your journey with great interest." Captain Ellis stepped forward. "I am Captain Nathan Ellis of the Earth vessel U.S. Defiant. We come in peace on a mission of exploration." The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. "And you have succeeded admirably. Welcome to the greater galactic community. Your species is not the first to venture beyond their home system, but it is always a momentous occasion when a new civilization joins us." The bridge crew exchanged glances of excitement and disbelief. First contact, the mission's most hopeful objective, achieved. Over the next few days, the Valkyrie shared information about the vast coalition of species they led. They invited a delegation from the Defiant to visit their ship. John was part of the security detail for this historic meeting. The Valkyrie vessel was a marvel of technology. Corridors that seemed to shift and rearrange themselves, gravity that adjusted perfectly to each visitor's homeworld, displays that appeared in midair and responded to thought. "Your vessel is impressive," John told a Valkyrie officer named Krell. This is merely a diplomatic vessel," Krell replied with a sound like chimes that John realized was laughter. "It is several generations old by our standards." John noticed something in Krell's tone. Not quite mockery, but a certain condescension, as if speaking to a child who had built a sandcastle and called it a fortress. Dr. Olivia Grant, the ship's xenobiologist, noticed it too. Later, in the shuttle back to the Defiant, she mentioned it to John. "Did you catch how they talk to us? Like we're clever pets." John nodded. "And did you see how they keep referring to other species as protected or developing? Never as equals." When they returned to the Defiant, Zex Troll presented Captain Ellis with a formal invitation for Earth to join the Valkyrie coalition as a protected species. "This is standard procedure," the ambassador explained. "Your civilization will benefit from our guidance and protection while you mature." The news was sent back to Earth, where it was met with celebration. Humanity was not alone, and their new neighbors seemed friendly and advanced. While the captain and officers celebrated, Dr. Grant studied the treaty documents provided by the Valkyrie. She called John to her lab late that night, her face tight with concern. "I've been going over these documents," she said quietly. "The translation is perfect, too perfect, and there are clauses buried in the technical appendices that concern me." John leaned over to look at her screen. "What kind of clauses?" "The kind that give them the right to harvest resources from any world in our system. The kind that allow them to collect biological samples without explicit permission." She looked up at him with worried eyes. the kind that define humans as research subjects of special interest. John's earlier unease solidified into something colder. We need to tell the captain. 6 months passed since humanity's first contact with the Valkyrie. Earth had changed. New buildings with alien designs rose in major cities. Strange ships crossed the skies. Alien tourists walked the streets, pointing at humans like they were animals in a zoo. Commander John Mercer no longer served on the U.S. Defiant. His promotion came with a new assignment: head of security at the Earth Embassy on the Valkyrie homeworld. The massive structure sat on a hill overlooking the alien capital city, a place of curved towers that seemed to defy gravity. John stared out the window of his office. The sky here was a pale purple, and 3 moons hung visible even in daylight. Beautiful, but not home. "Commander, you wanted to see these reports." Kate Daniels walked in with a tablet. She worked as the embassy's communications specialist, but John knew her real skills went far beyond that. "Yes, thank you." John took the tablet. "Any trouble decoding them?" Kate smiled slightly. "Nothing I couldn't handle. The Valkyrie think their encryption is unbreakable." "Their mistake." John scrolled through the files. "They make a lot of those when it comes to humans." The reports confirmed what John had suspected for weeks. Valkyrie ships were making unauthorized landings in remote areas of Earth: the Amazon rainforest, Siberia, the Australian outback. They were taking samples: plants, animals, soil, and sometimes people. "We need more proof," John said. "Something concrete to show Admiral Winters." Kate nodded. "There's a research facility about 20 miles from here. The files mention it several times. If we could get inside." "That would be breaking at least a dozen diplomatic rules," John said. "Yes, sir." They looked at each other for a long moment. "Meet me at the east exit at midnight," John finally said. "Bring Sam from Technical and Dr. Grant, if she's willing." That night, 4 humans slipped out of the embassy in a maintenance vehicle. Dr. Olivia Grant sat beside John, her face tense. In the back, Kate and Sam checked their equipment. "I still think this is crazy," Olivia said quietly. "If they catch us." "They won't," John said with more confidence than he felt. The research facility sat in a valley, surrounded by high walls. Kate's stolen access codes got them through the outer gate. Sam's tech skills disabled the security cameras. Then it was up to John and Olivia to find what they needed. The inside of the facility was cold and sterile. They passed labs with strange equipment. Through windows, they saw tanks filled with floating specimens, plants, and animals from Earth. "This way," John whispered, following the map on his device. "The main database should be through here." The central lab was larger than the others. Screens lined the walls, showing data in the Valkyrie language. But it wasn't the screens that made John stop short. It was the tanks. Dozens of them, each containing what looked like a sleeping human. "My God," Olivia breathed. She rushed to the nearest console, plugging in a translator device. They're studying us. Our biology, our adaptive immune system, our capacity to survive extreme conditions. John moved closer to one of the tanks. The person inside looked peaceful, as if merely sleeping. A child, no more than 12 years old. "Download everything," he ordered, his voice tight with anger. "Every file, every report." Olivia worked quickly, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "John, according to this, they think humans could be weapons. Our ability to adapt, to survive almost anything. They're trying to harness it." A sound from the corridor made them both freeze. Footsteps coming closer. "Hide," John whispered, pulling Olivia behind a large piece of equipment. 2 Valkyrie scientists entered, talking in their musical language. They moved to a console directly across from John and Olivia's hiding place. John held his breath. The download was still in progress. If they were discovered now. The alarm that suddenly blared made them all jump, Valkyrie and humans alike. A voice spoke over the facility's communication system. Security breach in Section 4. All personnel report. The Valkyrie scientists hurried out. John looked at Olivia. Sam and Kate must have been spotted. We need to move now. John and Olivia ran through the dimly lit corridors of the research facility. The alarm continued to blare, its high-pitched sound hurting their ears. John's device showed the way back to their entry point, but red dots on the screen indicated Valkyrie security forces closing in from multiple directions. "This way," John whispered, pulling Olivia down a side passage. "We need to get to the rendezvous point." They reached a junction where the corridor split in 3 directions. John checked his device again. "Sam is there." He pointed to the left path. "But I don't see Kate's signal." Olivia's face paled. "They got her." John nodded grimly. "We need to move. We can't help Kate if we're all captured." They found Sam hiding in a maintenance closet, his face streaked with sweat. "They came out of nowhere," he explained, his voice shaking. "Kate told me to run while she drew them off. I heard them catch her just as I got away." John cursed quietly. "Did you plant the emergency beacon like we planned?" Sam nodded. "If we can get outside the building, I can trigger it. The embassy shuttle will pick us up." The 3 humans moved carefully through the facility, avoiding patrols of Valkyrie security forces. Twice they had to hide in empty rooms as guards passed. Finally, they'd reached an emergency exit. "Wait," Olivia said suddenly. She pointed to a room across the hall. "Look at that sign. I can read some of it now. It says, 'Non-Valkyrie subjects.'" John hesitated. Their mission was already compromised with Kate captured. But something in Olivia's eyes made him nod. 5 minutes, he said. "No more." The room was filled with small cells. Each contained a different alien species. Some looked almost human, with only subtle differences. Others were completely foreign. Floating gas bags, insect-like creatures, things that seemed made of crystal. "They're experimenting on other species too," Olivia said. "We're not the only ones." John made a quick decision. "Sam, can you open these cells?" Sam moved to a control panel. "I think so. The system is similar to their door locks." "Do it," John ordered. Moments later, the cell doors slid open. The aliens looked confused, then frightened. John made gestures to show they should leave, pointing toward the exit. "I hope they understand," Olivia said. The group moved quickly toward the exit, now joined by a dozen confused alien prisoners. Sam triggered the emergency beacon as soon as they reached the outside. 10 minutes until pickup," he said. The wait felt endless. Some of the freed aliens disappeared into the night. Others stayed with the humans, perhaps sensing they were their best chance for escape. Finally, the embassy shuttle appeared, landing in a small clearing nearby. The pilot looked shocked when he saw the group of aliens with the 3 humans. "Commander, what's going on?" he asked as they boarded. "Just fly," John ordered. "Get us back to the embassy now." As the shuttle lifted off, Valkyrie security vehicles converged on the facility below. They had escaped just in time. Back at the embassy, Admiral Patricia Winters listened to their report with a grim face. The evidence they had gathered was damning. The Valkyrie were not the benevolent guides they claimed to be. "And Lieutenant Daniels?" the Admiral asked. "Captured, ma'am," John replied, the words bitter in his mouth. "We need to get her back." Admiral Winters stood and looked out at the alien city. "This changes everything. I'm going to take this evidence to the Valkyrie High Council myself. Demand Kate's return and an end to these experiments." "They'll deny everything," Olivia warned. "Perhaps," the Admiral said. "But they should know this. Humans do not abandon their own." 3 days later, Admiral Winters returned from her meeting with the Valkyrie High Council. Her face told them everything before she spoke. "They deny all wrongdoing. They claim Kate Daniels was caught committing espionage and will be held for questioning. And they've given us an ultimatum." She took a deep breath. Surrender all military capabilities and accept full protected species status, or face the consequences. John stood straighter. What are your orders, Admiral? Admiral Winter's eyes were hard as steel. Publicly, we continue to negotiate. Privately, prepare for conflict. And Commander, she added, get a team ready. We're getting Lieutenant Daniels back. 2 weeks passed since the ultimatum. Earth's outposts on Mars and the Moon went silent one by one. The Valkyrie had begun their attack without another warning. Admiral Winters ordered all remaining Earth ships to return home to defend their planet. Commander John Mercer and his team barely escaped the Valkyrie homeworld. Their shuttle was damaged during the escape, but still managed to reach a hidden Earth base in a nearby star system. There, John received new orders and a new ship. The U.S. Resolute wasn't large, but it was fast and nearly impossible to detect. Earth scientists had reverse-engineered Valkyrie technology in secret over the past months. The Resolute was the result. Humanity's first true stealth warship. She's beautiful, John said as he stood on the bridge for the first time. The ship hummed with power beneath his feet. Dr. Olivia Grant joined him, her lab coat exchanged for a military uniform. And she has teeth. The weapons systems are unlike anything we've had before. John nodded. Good. We'll need them for our mission. Their orders were clear. First, rescue Kate Daniels from the Valkyrie prison station. Second, make contact with the alien species they had freed from the research facility. Some of them might become allies against the Valkyrie. The Resolute slipped through space undetected, approaching the massive Valkyrie prison station. It looked like a metal spider, with a central hub and 8 extending arms. Each arm contained thousands of cells. No signs they've detected us, Sam reported from his station. Their sensors are sweeping right past us. John stood and adjusted his tactical vest. Olivia, you have the bridge. Sam, you're with me. We'll take a team of 6. Get in, find Kate. Get out. The boarding party used a small shuttle to reach the station. They cut through an outer hull door and entered the prison undetected. Using the information from a freed alien who had once been held there, they navigated toward the high-security section. The first Valkyrie guards they encountered fell quickly to stun weapons. John ordered his team to avoid killing if possible. They weren't here for revenge. Not yet. They found Kate in a cell at the end of a long corridor. She looked thin and pale, but her eyes lit up when she saw them. Took you long enough, she said with a weak smile as John unlocked her cell. Traffic was bad, John replied, helping her to her feet. Can you walk? Kate nodded. I've been exercising in my cell. They wanted me healthy for their tests. As they moved back toward their entry point, alarms began to sound. They've discovered the stunned guards, Sam warned. We need to move faster. The team ran through the corridors, exchanging fire with Valkyrie security forces. They reached their shuttle just as a larger group of guards closed in. Go, John shouted, providing cover fire as his team boarded the shuttle. A Valkyrie energy blast hit his shoulder, spinning him around. Sam grabbed him and pulled him aboard as the shuttle door closed. Back on the Resolute, Kate recovered quickly. She had valuable information from her time in captivity. The Valkyrie aren't as united as they seem, she told Admiral Winters over a secure channel. Many of the species in their coalition are treated like us, as resources to be used. Some are already in open rebellion since you freed those test subjects. Can you make contact with these rebels? The Admiral asked. Kate nodded. I learned their communication protocols. Some of the guards talked too much, thinking I couldn't understand them. John, his shoulder bandaged, joined the conversation. We should head to the HFY system. One of the aliens we freed told me their people would help us if we ever needed it. Admiral Winters nodded on the screen. Do it. We need all the allies we can get. The Valkyrie fleet is gathering for a major assault on Earth. Our defenses won't hold for long. As the Resolute set course for the HFY system, John watched the stars streak by on the view screen. The ship moved faster than any human vessel before it, but John feared it might not be fast enough. "We'll make it," Kate said, reading his thoughts. "And when we do, the Valkyrie will learn what happens when you corner a human." The Exeris were not what John expected. They looked like tall, thin humans made of blue crystal. Light moved beneath their transparent skin like flowing water, but they welcomed the crew of the Resolute warmly. "The Valkyrie have harvested our worlds for centuries," said Helith, the Exeris leader. "We will fight with you." Other species joined their cause too. The insect-like Krell, the gas-filled Volrine, even some Valkyrie who disagreed with their leaders. Within days, a small fleet gathered around the Resolute. But a message from Earth changed everything. Admiral Winter's face on the screen looked tired and afraid. "The Valkyrie main fleet has arrived. Over 200 ships. They've destroyed our outer defenses already. We're evacuating cities, but..." She paused, looking away for a moment. "We need you back here, Commander. Whatever allies you found, bring them now." The journey back to Earth took 3 days at maximum speed. 3 days during which none of them slept much. Kate worked with the alien allies to coordinate their attack plan. Olivia finished her work on a biological weapon that would affect only Valkyrie. Sam modified the ship's systems to better work with the alien vessels. John just worried. His home was under attack, and he wasn't there. When they arrived, Earth was surrounded by Valkyrie ships. The planet's surface showed black scars where cities had stood. The few remaining Earth ships fought bravely, but were clearly losing. "This is Admiral Winters on the U.S. Victory," came a voice over the communication system. "Commander Mercer, is that you?" "Yes, Admiral," John replied. "We've brought help. Thank God. The Valkyrie have demanded our surrender. They've given us 12 hours before they begin destroying major cities one by one." The small Allied fleet hid behind Mars, out of sight of the Valkyrie. John, Kate, Olivia, and the alien leaders formed a desperate plan. "The Valkyrie command ship controls their entire fleet," Helith explained. "If we can disable it, the other ships will be confused. It may give us time to attack." "How do we get close enough?" Kate asked. "They'll see us coming." John looked at the Resolute. "Not if we're in a stealth ship." The plan was dangerous. John, Olivia, and Kate would take the Resolute close to the Valkyrie command ship. Using the stealth technology, they would dock undetected. Then they would infiltrate the ship and release Olivia's biological weapon into the air systems. It wouldn't kill the Valkyrie, but it would make them unable to fight for several hours. Meanwhile, the Allied fleet would wait for the signal, then attack the disoriented Valkyrie ships. The Resolute approached the massive Valkyrie command ship silently. It was huge, easily 50 times the size of their vessel. John guided the ship to a maintenance dock on the underside of the command ship. "No alarms," Sam reported. "They don't see us." John, Olivia, and Kate put on their tactical gear. Each carried a weapon and a small tank of Olivia's biological agent. "Remember, we need to reach the central air processing system," Olivia said. "According to the schematics the Exeris provided, it should be on level 12. They entered the Valkyrie ship through a maintenance hatch. The corridors were empty at first. Then they encountered a patrol of guards. John fired first, his stun weapon dropping 2 Valkyrie before they could respond. Kate took down another, but the 4th guard managed to hit an alarm panel before Olivia stunned him. "Move," John ordered. "We need to get to level 12 before they lock down the ship." They ran through the corridors as alarms blared around them. More Valkyrie guards appeared, forcing them to find alternate routes. They fought their way up through the ship, level by level. Finally, they reached level 12. The door to the air processing system was sealed and guarded by 6 heavily armed Valkyrie. "We don't have time for subtlety," John said, pulling out a small explosive device. "Stand back." The explosion rocked the corridor. When the smoke cleared, the door was gone. Beyond it lay the massive air processing system that supplied oxygen to the entire ship. The 3 humans rushed inside, prepared to release the biological weapon. But they stopped short at what they saw. Ambassador Zextrol stood waiting for them, surrounded by dozens of armed guards. "Did you really think we wouldn't notice your little ship?" Ambassador Zextrol asked, his four eyes blinking in sequence. "We've been tracking you since you entered the solar system." John glanced at Kate and Olivia. They were surrounded, with no clear way out. But John had learned long ago that humans were at their most dangerous when cornered. "Now," he said quietly. Olivia threw something toward the ceiling, a small metal sphere that exploded into blinding light. The Valkyrie cried out, their sensitive eyes more affected than human ones. In that moment of confusion, John and Kate opened fire with their stun weapons. Valkyrie guards fell around them. Zextrol shouted orders, backing away toward a door. John charged forward, tackling the ambassador to the ground. They struggled, the Valkyrie stronger, but John more determined. Meanwhile, Kate and Olivia fought their way to the air processing controls. Valkyrie reinforcements poured into the room. Kate took a hit to her leg, but kept firing. Olivia reached the main control panel and attached her device to it. 10 seconds. She shouted over the noise of battle. John heard her and redoubled his efforts, landing a solid punch that made Zextrol stagger back. The ambassador's face showed something new. Fear. "You don't understand what you're doing," Zextrol said. "We had to control your species. You're too dangerous to be left unchecked." "You should have asked nicely," John replied, and hit him again. Olivia's device beeped as it finished its work. A fine mist began to spray from the ceiling vents. The effect on the Valkyrie was immediate. They began to sway, their movements becoming slow and uncoordinated. "It's working," Olivia called out. She pressed a button on her communicator. "Sam, now." Outside the command ship, the Allied fleet emerged from behind Mars. They attacked the Valkyrie ships, which responded sluggishly as their command center began to fail. John grabbed Zextrol by his ornate collar. "You're coming with us. We need you to order your fleet to stand down." They dragged the ambassador to the ship's bridge. Most of the Valkyrie officers there were already affected by Olivia's weapon, slumped in their chairs or on the floor. Kate limped to the main communication console. "It's working like the Exarus said. I can broadcast to the entire coalition from here." "Do it," John ordered, pushing Zextrol into the captain's chair. Kate worked quickly, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "Ready." John turned to the ambassador. "Tell your fleet to stop the attack. Now." Zextrol looked at him with hatred. "I will do no such thing. You are animals. Dangerous animals that need to be controlled." John leaned closer. "Either you give the order, or we broadcast what we found in your research facilities. The experiments, the violations of your own coalition laws. What do you think the other species will do when they learn how you've been using them? How many rebellions will start?" Fear flickered in the ambassador's eyes. He knew John wasn't bluffing. "Fine," he said finally. He spoke into the communication system, ordering the fleet to cease fire and withdraw to defensive positions. "Now transmit our evidence anyway," John told Kate. "The coalition deserves to know the truth." Kate smiled and pressed a series of buttons. "Already done. I sent it the moment we reached the bridge. It's being broadcast to every ship and planet in the coalition." On the view screens around them, they could see the Valkyrie fleet falling into disarray. Some ships were already turning away from Earth. Others seemed to be fighting each other. At the same time, Admiral Winters led the remaining Earth ships in a counterattack, joined by the alien allies John had brought. The Valkyrie ships, confused by contradicting orders and without clear leadership, began to retreat. "We did it," Olivia said softly, hardly believing it. John looked at Earth on the main screen. Parts of it were burning. Millions had likely died. The victory felt hollow when he thought of the cost. "No," he said. "We've only just started." 3 years had passed since the battle for Earth. The planet still showed scars from the Valkyrie attack, but humans were good at rebuilding. New cities rose from the ashes of the old ones. Green parks replaced bomb craters. Life went on. Admiral John Mercer stood on the observation deck of the New Earth Alliance headquarters, a massive space station orbiting the moon. He wore his dress uniform with its new insignia, a blue Earth surrounded by stars representing the allied species. "Admiral, they're ready for you," said a young officer. John nodded and followed her to the conference room. Around the large table sat representatives from 20 different species, all former members of the Valkyrie Coalition. They stood as John entered. Kate Daniels sat to his right, now the head of interspecies communication. Olivia Grant sat to his left, leading the Cooperative Research Initiative. They had both earned their new positions through courage and innovation. "Let's begin," John said when everyone was seated again. First, the status of the Valkyrie containment. A blue crystalline, Exeris stood and projected an image of the Valkyrie home system. The blockade remains effective. No Valkyrie ships have attempted to leave their system in 6 months. Our monitoring stations report their military has been mostly dismantled. "Good," John said. "And the rehabilitation program?" Kate spoke up. "Progress continues. Many Valkyrie, especially the younger ones, have accepted that their leaders missil them. They're learning to view other species as equals, not resources." John remembered the faces of those who had died in the war. Sometimes he wondered if the Valkyrie deserved forgiveness. But he also remembered what his father taught him. True strength comes not from revenge, but from justice. "Now for our main purpose today," John continued. "We've detected signals from a previously unknown civilization in the Orion sector. They appear to be making their first steps into interstellar travel." The representatives looked at each other. In the old Valkyrie Coalition, a new species would have been seen as something to exploit. But the Earth Alliance had different values. "We've prepared a first contact package," Kate said. "We propose sending a small diplomatic vessel to greet them. No weapons, no intimidation. Just the hand of friendship." The room filled with sounds of approval. This was what they had fought for. A galaxy where new civilizations could join as equals, not servants. After the meeting, John stood with Kate and Olivia on the observation deck again. Earth hung below them, beautiful and blue. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Olivia asked. "When we first met the Valkyrie, I mean." John shook his head. "Never. I just wanted to protect our planet. And instead, you helped free half the galaxy," Kate said with a smile. "Not bad for a security officer." John smiled too, but his eyes remained serious. "We still have work to do. The Alliance is young. There are still species suffering out there. And who knows what else is waiting beyond the stars." "Whatever it is," Olivia said, "it should remember one thing." "What's that?" John asked. "Never cross a human." They all laughed, but they knew there was truth in her words. Humans had proven themselves to be fierce protectors, not just of their own world, but of any who sought freedom and justice. The next day, a message arrived from the new civilization in the Orion sector. They had detected Earth's ships and were eager to make contact. John volunteered to lead the mission himself. As the diplomatic vessel prepared to leave, John thought about everything that had happened. The Valkyrie had seen humans as dangerous animals that needed to be controlled. They had been right about one thing: humans could be dangerous. But not because they were animals. Because they were people who would fight for what was right. The universe had learned its lesson. Humans were not to be crossed. But it had also learned something more important. Humans could be the best of allies and the truest of friends. The ship moved away from the station, heading toward a new beginning. Behind them, Earth turned peacefully in the darkness, no longer alone in the universe.